Hi, I'm Barbara Fote with another JTools. This one is on finding people. We'll talk about how do you find experts, professionals, or people living the story. And I'm sure your professor's already told you that the best way to find people is not online, but it's getting out into the community and meeting people. But still, I'm going to give you a few tricks and tips here for how online resources can help you in finding people. And we'll talk about using phone books, directories, public records, and social media. But first, a quick refresher, if it's been a while since you did the JTools unit on searching, let me tell you about two quick tricks for finding people using online resources. And the first is, when you're searching for a name on a search engine, I recommend you put the name in quotes. So here's the name of, at least when I'm recording this in the summer of 2016, a basketball recruit, Taurine Thompson. Now, that's not a real common name, but if you just type that name into a search engine, you'll get all the pages with Taurine and all the pages with Thompson. And we want just the pages with his name together. So a better way of doing that would be to put his name in quotes in the search engine. A second tip is, rather than search the whole World Wide Web for somebody's name, if you know there's a reputable site where that person's name might be, or a site which has talked about that person, why not search just at that site? And the formula is put their name in quotes and then site : no space, the domain name, which is everything but the www. So for example, if I wanted Dino Babers, I'd put his name in quotes, and this formula means just search for Dino Babers at the site Syracuse.com. Now you know that Syracuse.com often uses middle initials, so just a caveat here, if the newspaper had Dino S. Babers, this search wouldn't find it. But I think first it's still best to try for a search with a phrase search with the name in quotes. And if you're like me and you want to quote somebody in Twitter or want to find somebody's Twitter handle, how do you do that? Here's a quick tip. If you're looking for our alum who's the CBS Evening News anchor, Jeff Glor, put his name in quotes and then search only on Twitter and you'll find him. So two quick search tips. Let's now talk about using online phone books. Anywho or white pages can help you find people's names, addresses, phone numbers. I would encourage you to try the first initial of the name rather than the full name. And if you're ever looking for an address, delete the street, avenue, road, because you don't know if the phone book typed R-O-A-D, the full name for road, or just R-D, or just R or R-T. So two little hints there. And if you want to look internationally, there are links here for international phone books. And I'm sure you know from the other JTools units, but every website that I'm talking about here is on the web page where you found this video. So you can always come back here and click on the links. So let's say you want to find me, and let's check out Anywho. If we go to Anywho, then all we have to do is type in a name. And from my Newhouse bio, you would find out that I live in Jamesville, New York. And it's just that simple. Right here is my address and my phone number. White Pages is another website. It's a little trickier, so let me show you. You would put the name at the top, and actually my full name doesn't net anything. So here's again where the tip to use just an initial. If you put in BFote, you should find me. Forget these things right here. Those are the paid services, and jump down and look for the little house icon or the phone icon, which would give you an address or a phone number. Go ahead now and try it out with someone that you know has a listed phone. Again, these are landline phones, not cell phones. Try Anywho and or White Pages, and then come back. So while we're on phone books, let me tell you about reverse directories. Did you know if you have a telephone number, you can often find a name associated with that? On White Pages, you can reverse a number and get a name, again, if it is a listed phone number, a landline. You can also put in an address and see if you can find a name or a number. For example, use the reverse address button on White Pages and see if you can find out who lives at 102 Woodside Drive in Syracuse. Your professor may ask you to report this at your next class, or it might be on an upcoming quiz. See if you can figure out who lives there. And if you have a phone number, you can sometimes find an address. Let's say that you called Tully's, but you weren't really sure which one you called. Was it the one on the east side of town or the west side of town? And you're set up to do an interview there. You can type the number into Bing or Google, and usually it will come up and give you the location, the address, and also a map. Another quick trick, on MapQuest, you can actually just type in a phone number, and it will give you a map and the address. So those are some search tips and some use of phone books. Let's move on to talk about directories. These are lists and names of people and their phone numbers. If you don't have a name, however, you might want to check an experts list with all kinds of lists of lists. So pause now, take a minute, and become familiar with all the expert lists. So if you can't find an expert from those lists, I don't know where you're going to find them. But if you do want a specific person at a specific location, there might be a directory there for that organization or group. For example, there's a U.S. government directory by agencies, and in New York there are directories, and many other states. So I'd like you to apply what you've learned and find a phone number. Let's say you're doing an environmental story and you found out that Kaushal Gupta is an acid rain expert, and he works at the EPA. See if you can find out both his telephone number and an email contact for him. And this is something your professor might ask you to report in your next class or might be on an upcoming quiz. Hints? At least two ways. Look for an EPA government directory and then find his name, or use that filter, again, putting his name in and searching only at the EPA. So a number of professions have directories. You might have seen this commercial if you've been in Syracuse for a few years with Jim Boeheim and a doctor. Let's find out more about that doctor. If we went to the doctor finder, we'd come up with this information about Dr. Batslavsky. His name, his specialty, where he works, and even his office phone. And that he's certified in urology. Similarly, there are directories for lawyers, and if you want to pause and check out one of the lawyer directories, think of a lawyer that you know and see if you can find him or her. One more reminder, in the JTools unit on searching, there are directories and search sites like iTools, and then the NCC News site, NCC News links with lots of beats. And just a reminder that those can be other places to find people. Okay, we have done 3 of the topics. We're going to come back and do public records and social media, so you might want to take a break and then come back. Okay, on to public records and social media. There are a number of public records where you can find people, particularly by occupation. In many states, they will post online their licensing database. Beauticians, athletic trainers, pest exterminators, all kinds of people that have license have to be registered. So let's check out, Karen McKinney is a sports trainer here at Syracuse University. Let's find out, click the link on the webpage and find out, is she certified? So she is certified. Next, let's look at property records. Many counties, like Onondaga, put property records online. Let's look for mine. I happen to live in the county, not the city, so I'm going to click here. And then you'd have to know that I live in DeWitt, and my address, which we found earlier, was 6305 Hamlet Crest, and there it shows up. Go to the property. And here is the listing from the county. Over here is owner and sales. So if you click on that, you will see my name and that of my spouse. You can see what we paid for our home and when, a little bit about what it's like, the previous owner. And if you wanted to get any of the tax bills, you would find them right here. A number of states like New York have a charities database, so if you're looking for someone who's on the board of directors, say, of a charity, you might be able to find some things about him or her there. Also, there are campaign finance records that can provide lots of great information, both about donors who's supporting what candidate and about elected politicians. So if we look under politicians and elections, and we went to look at the local congressional district, I'm doing this in the summer of 2016 when John Katko is the Congress member. It might be different by the time you listen to this, but let's search and see what's happening. Here's the race, and as of the summer when I'm recording this, you can see how much he's raised, $1.9 million, compared to his competitor who's raised a little over $600,000. If you scroll down, you can find out some of the outside groups here that are spending money in this race. We can also click on Katko and get some bio, some basic information. So this is summary information, and then by election, we can see what he spent in comparison. And then we can look by industry at who supported him and note the other tabs along here. The donors tab might be most interesting to you. It gives the top 20 contributors to his campaign. And you can click on any of these and find out a little bit more about that entity. So take some time and explore this either for the congressional district in Syracuse or for your home congressional district. You'll want to be familiar with this. So I hope you found that was interesting. Another way to use that database is if you want to find a supporter of a particular candidate. It's hard to know just sitting in your dorm room who does support such and such a candidate. But using this site, you can probably find someone who, obviously, if they've given money, supports that candidate. One more public record search that might be helpful in finding people, it also can be used for backgrounding a company, is the EDGAR database, which is the Securities and Exchange Commission, any corporation whose stock is publicly traded. And I happen to know that the Carroll's company, based in Syracuse, is one of the largest franchise holders for Burger King franchises. And if that company was in the news or you wanted to do something about it, you wanted to get some background on the company or find people associated with the company. Now there's lots of different forms they have to fill out, but I happen to know that the 10Q or the 10K is a good one to look at. And here again, I'm going to go for the 10Q. And this will give me lots of information about Carroll, some basic financial information, but for finding people, some of the key officers and directors and their roles. Think of another company whose stock is traded publicly, might even be a sports team. There's one or two that are, I believe. And dive in, look at a 10K or a 10Q, and see all the wealth of information that you can find. Okay, so we've been through a lot of the techniques. Let's talk about crowdsourcing with social media. These are some of the common social media platforms that are helpful for finding people. I won't talk a lot about Facebook because I'm sure you're an expert at Facebook and know about how to connect with people on Facebook. But one ethical question you might think about, because your professor might want to talk to you about, is should you friend sources? How does that feel for you? What are the professional issues there? LinkedIn can be a fabulous platform to use to find people. You can certainly search for people to get background on companies. For example, if you saw this Lockheed story and you wanted to talk to somebody at Lockheed or find more out about Lockheed, you can certainly search by name or by company or by industry. One of the other great things is LinkedIn is very helpful for finding people who are working on a particular aspect of a project, but also to do some backgrounding before an interview and to find former employees who will often connect you to others or spill the beans when current employees may not want to talk about it. Swarm is the old Foursquare, and it's come back with mayors, who are the person who has checked into a certain venue the most. So if you're looking for someone to interview about a particular location or venue, you might go on Swarm and find out who's the mayor. That person obviously is knowledgeable, being there a lot. For finding people in breaking news, please check with your professor about whether the experiment with BAN.JO is still ongoing. BAN.JO is a social media site that geolocates all the feeds from about 13 different social media platforms. So here, for example, is a map of Syracuse, and you can see the number of social media postings, and you have the ability to look at any of those postings. So if there is any breaking news, geographically, you can look and see if there was any video or pictures from that scene, or you can also just track the buzz. In late 2016, Newhouse is doing an experiment with BAN.JO, and so your professor may have more information about how you can use BAN.JO. Obviously, ethics and finding sources when you find people, as this cartoon says, how the hell does Facebook know I'm a dog? Always something to think about, credibility as well as privacy issues when you're finding people through social media. So those are the tips. We've talked about some searching tips, using phone books, directories, how to dive through public records, and some things about crowdsourcing and social media. If you like this stuff, there are more JTools units here near the same website where you found this. And I would encourage you to look at my blog, readyreporter.syr.edu, or follow me at Ready Reporter, because I'm always looking for ways to help reporters work quicker and better.